Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Choose to Challenge. I am Luana Bradford with the Bradford Group, as well as principal of the Bradford Group Consulting. And I am so excited that we have another amazing guest. We have Miss Delphine Lomax Taylor. Delphine, how's it going?
Going wonderful, wonderful. I'm blessed to be here.
I'm so glad you're here with me. Delphine and I go way back. We were trying to think, how long has it been? And we figured it's been about 20 years. And today we want to talk about from breast cancer to warrior to conqueror.
Mm.
And we're in Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but this is just one month where everyone's sort of highlighting. It's so important. But our health should be something that's 24/7, 12 months out of the year, right? Not just during this point in time. But before we get into this conversation, I want to tell you a little bit about this amazing woman. Delphine is an author, and I just want to share this amazing title. She has a book called Woman to Woman: Life Lessons Learned on the Journey to Marriage, Motherhood, Entrepreneurship, Divorce, Surviving Breast Cancer, and Finding Love. So we're going to just sit on the breast cancer part, but we're going to have her back on our Power of the Pen series to dig deeper into this book and about how she's been so resilient, and her life is truly a living testimony. She's also an entrepreneur. She's been in the marketing industry for 40 years, and she is the co-founder and partner of BNL Research. They do market research for private industry, government agencies across the United States. And she's just a remarkable philanthropist. She is a speaker, a teacher, and a huge advocate about breast cancer awareness. So, I was shocked, Delphine, when I was looking at some of the stats, and I saw that 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer, and 43,000 women a year die from breast cancer. Most people think breast cancer is only for women, but we know it also
Mhm.
impacts men as well.
Absolutely.
And you survived, I believe it's a triple negative breast cancer. If you don't mind, would you share however much of your story you'd like to share, and what is triple negative breast cancer?
I sure can. Well, it goes back, and thank you so much, Lawana, for having me. I'm always an advocate, as you mentioned, for um, mammograms, for people to get their annual mammograms. And that's because that's how I was detected. It was not through any self-examination or self-checks that we should do monthly, but it was absolutely a mammogram that I received for the Center for Black Women's Wellness, which is to me an organization that's like a kept secret in the Atlanta area. Actually, Susan G. Komen gives grants to various organizations to fund mammograms, and I was in between um, just had recently went through a divorce, was underinsured because I had always been on my husband's insurance. But because of a grant or monies that Susan G. Komen gave the Center for Black Women's Wellness, if you are able to, if you can afford it, I think it's like $25. If you can't afford it, they don't turn anyone away. It's free. So the first Saturday, I believe, in October of 2013, I got that mammogram. And by the end of October, that's when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. But didn't even know about the triple negative yet. Cause I was like, when they called me into that office and was like, got some good news and bad news. Good news is you're stage 0. It's kind of was like in the duck area. The bad news is you have breast cancer. I was like, well, I've always heard of stage 1 through 4. So 0 must not be too bad. And so, but I still had some concerns, and I knew of a physician that specialized in breast cancer. We had served on a board together. So I went to see her, and she said, Delphine, we need to know what we're working with. So I want you to get an MRI of that right breast. I said, okay, sure. So did the MRI, met with her in her office, and she put up these images. So I'm thinking I'm going to go in, just schedule a lumpectomy. I'm done. But when she put these images up, They were little white dots all over that right breast. And she said, I'm not sure what those are. They may not be cancerous. She said, but I think you should get a mastectomy. Well, my heart sank because when you think you're going in for a lumpectomy, it is a big difference between a lumpectomy and a mastectomy. And so I looked at her. Normally, I take my mother with me to all doctor's appointments or somebody. I was by
Right.
myself.
Oh my
So I
goodness.
was just in this parking lot, like kind of numb. But I knew that I would do whatever she said. I trusted her opinion. And so, long story short, I did have that mastectomy. And in doing that, they removed some of the lymph nodes. They looked at them, and it turned out I had what was called triple negative. Now, a lot of people, when I tell them about triple negative, they're like, oh, great. Because negative always connotes negative meaning good, but
Yes.
not triple negative is not good because that means I didn't test positive anything. And there's protocols like some people test positive to progesterone or positive to estrogen, or there's like three things. But I tested negative, which means they don't know where it started in my body. So I had to go through rigorous, like the highest drug that they would give someone with chemo. So I had to take those harsh drugs to try and knock or kill with whatever was in the body. So I got the mastectomy. I had to have radiation, 6 weeks of radiation. And, but I'm proud to say November of this year, I guess it'll be 8 years because we're 2021. So I'm happy. It's always in the back of my mind though, but I don't dwell on it because you can have reoccurrence. I think about it, but I don't dwell on it.
And I love that because I always tell people, life is happening now, right? We don't know what tomorrow may bring, and it's not even promised. So if you can just celebrate, each moment for what it is, then I think life is that much more. A friend of mine, Wendy Watkins, she says delicious.
And you know what? And I have to share this because, you think, and I do have a chapter in my book about that, like, why me? And it's almost like, well, why not me? Because I'll tell you what, my sister lives in Ohio. We have no history. We've had like third cousins who've had breast cancer, but no immediate family member, not my mom or anyone on my dad's side. But my sister, when I was going through my journey, say I was diagnosed in October, but when I had my surgery, went through my surgeries and things in February of the following year, I asked my sister, I said, when was the last time you had a mammogram? And she had to think about it. Oh, I've been meaning to get one. I've been meaning, maybe 1 or 2 years past. Don't you know? I said, Lisa, get a mammogram. And so she went to she went ahead right away, scheduled it, got a mammogram. She calls me back and said, are you sitting down? And I'm like, what? She was diagnosed with breast cancer. And totally different. So she ended up having a lumpectomy but we went through the journey together. So she's in Ohio, I'm here. And so she always says that I saved her life because after her breast cancer diagnosis, she ends up with thyroid cancer, which sometimes I don't know, I've heard this. She said it was a correlation or something. She probably had the thyroid cancer before the breast cancer, but she says, girl, you saved my life because I don't know if she would have got around to it to get her to have her mammogram, but we went through our chemo radiation during that year, 2014.
Wow. It's so important as you mentioned to do the right thing, be proactive, get the mammogram. And I know people get scared, but also know your body, doing those self
Mm.
checks. And for me, my first mammogram was, and I wasn't even due to start having a mammogram. But you know how they bring the mobile vans to to the corporate office, and I said, "Oh, why not? Let's go see what this is all about." I was 35. I go there and I get a call the next day. We found something. I'm like, no, no, that's impossible. And I went and they for me they did a lumpectomy. It turned out to be benign, but that was very scary because I was just doing it just, hey, why not? Let's just go and see. But the one thing that the physician said, and you'll definitely know this better than me, that even though something may be in a benign state, it can morph into something that is cancerous.
Yeah, and that's why they always say get your yearly mammogram so you can have a baseline and you can do comparison. Because sometimes, and and I'm not the expert on breast cancer, because there's so many different types. Everybody's breast tissues, you hear sometimes they talk about, oh, mine is dense or lumpy. Some people have that type of breast, but at least they have something to compare it to. So if you get them every year, if they notice a change, then they have something compared to. So that's why I do strongly recommend. And you mentioned something about the comfort. Yes, you know what? It can be uncomfortable. And I always, fortunately, the technicians, they've been it depends. Sometimes you can run across people who are just kind of, I don't want to say slap it up there, but they kind of just slap it up there and just, do. And then you have others who are gentle, but it really doesn't take long. And yep, it can be a little uncomfortable, but to me, that I can tolerate that uncomfortableness for just a little bit. It doesn't last long. It's not even like you're there for an hour. Just a few moments.
Yeah. The one thing that's a little frightening is within communities of color, especially African American communities, there's a huge disparity, when you're looking at our mortality rates. We're not doing the self checks that we should, or we're not doing the preventative checks. What would you say to women out there? And I love what you said, when you were underinsured, there was still a way.
Exactly. And like I said, I mentioned, I'm sure you probably have viewers from all over. So I would but Susan G. Komen is all over. You can even probably Google Susan G. Komen. I think it's .org. And I think you can find like places that they may fund these mammograms. I'm not fund mammograms, because matter of fact, the walk was just here in Atlanta on Saturday, where they raised money to give to organizations for mammograms. So I would say to search your local area and you might even just put free mammograms, because I know they're all over. So again, or like your primary care physician or your provider, to find out, are there organizations out there that fund mammograms? Because there's more organizations out there, just like the Center for Black Women's Wellness.
So I have it. I think it's
Komen,
Komen.org.
yes, Komen.org. Correct. And I think you can visit their website, and they may have where you can put your zip code in, or your address or something, where you may be able to find help. Because that is one of the things that I know that they do, is to fund mammograms.
Okay. I'm putting this here for our viewing audience.
Wonderful.
And that is so important. And one of the things that we know that's happening here with the pandemic, because women have been hardest hit, we already are dealing with pay inequity. And then we know that the pandemic hit us harder, whether we've had to come off the job, the industries that we're in shut down. And the first thing, unfortunately, that tends to go is insurance coverage. And so this is real important, ladies and men who are listening.
Absolutely.
Don't just say, "Oh, well, I don't have insurance. What am I to do?" There's this organization. There are other local, national organizations that are there to help and assist. And we need to reach out. We need to ask. We need to do our research, right?
Absolutely.
When you were going through your chemotherapy, if you don't mind, walk through the journey of, like you said, you in your book you have this why me.
Mm-hmm.
When did you go from the why me to I can beat this?
I wonder sometimes, when you say I can beat this, one of the things that really I believed helped me is a support system. And I'm so fortunate again, and so super blessed, because I've heard of stories where people do not have a support system. And I know that's what helped me. I had friends. My mother, though, she was like, We don't need any help. I'm going to with you to all of your appointments. So, but I have friends on standby. Like if your mom doesn't want to go, I'll be there with you. And so support and having a faith and believing in a higher being and believing in God that you can bring me through. Because there were days you're kind of like, this too shall pass, this too shall pass. Because what happens, first of all, once you have that diagnosis and you know you have surgery, and I had my surgery, and it's time for that, my first appointment with my oncologist. And she was super duper African American woman, just fantastic. But my first appointment with her, and she was telling me about triple negative, and there's there at the time, because think about it, we're talking about 8 years, so there's probably way more protocols now for triple negative breast cancer. But in my case, you didn't really hear about it. Like I had never heard of triple negative breast cancer, but since my diagnosis, I have met so many other women, and most of them are women of color. Like triple negative breast cancer, for whatever reason, not that other nationalities don't get it, but a high proportion of them are African American women. So I've come across so many women with triple negative. But when she talked to me and she was explaining to me, we're going to put you on 2 different regimens of drugs. And she said, you'll lose your hair. And at the point, now, of course, my hair is short right now, but I had very long locks that went down to my back, or if I wanted to wrap them on top of my head, I've always had hair, always had long hair. And I looked at her, I was like, can you give me that percentage of hair, you know, 90%, 80%? She was like 100%. I was like, dang, that was really getting to me. But again, I'm thinking, okay, hair, life, hair, life. Okay, I choose life. I choose life. And so the other thing, once I had my very first appointment, before you do chemo, they have to do your vitals and they do blood work. Every time before I did it, they do blood work. And why is that? Because once you start taking chemotherapy, it attacks your white blood cells. And not only your white blood cells, but different things are going on in your body. Um, and again, things have changed. Every time I had chemo, the next day I would have to come back and get a new Neulasta shot in my stomach. Well, guess what? Now after you do chemo, they give you a little Neulasta patch, and it knows when to release the medicine the next day. So I'm telling you, just medicine just changes. And I believe, sometimes people will say, well, I don't believe in doctors and I don't go to doctors. Well, I believe God made people doctors and to help us through situations. So getting back to my story, so and then I had to wait for the results of my blood work. If they weren't good, that means no chemo that day, because they want to make sure you're healthy enough or strong enough to do chemo. But most of the time, maybe there was one time when I was unable to, but for the most time, then they take you back to a room. You have like a chair that you're sitting in. They give you a warm blanket, and one other person can go with you. And then, which of course I told you was my mom. And then they give you drugs at first to kind of like Benadryl and other things to relax you and to make sure you're fighting, don't have any infections. And then I would sit there. It would be an all day process. And I remember, Luana, one of the drugs they gave me, I think it was called adriamycin. It's red. And they would come in and say, I'm about to give you and this is the drug that they will never give me again, one of the strongest chemo drugs. And they would come in and they would say, we're about to give you I think one nurse called it the red devil medicine. I'm like, not me. We're not going to call this the red devil medicine. It's blood of Jesus or something else, but it was not going to be so it was this thick red medicine. Now I have to tell you this. I just had my port. They had a port. I had a port right here. That's where they would put all the drugs. But when they gave me that drug, all I had on was my gown. They would just move over. They would insert the port. But how about she had on gloves, a mask, face shield, completely head to toe covered. And one day I asked, I'm like, this is interesting. You are completely covered, but I'm not. And you're putting this in me. And she said, well, you have to be very careful because if we don't get it in your vein, it can burn you. Like it's just like acid. I was
Mm,
like, okay. I learned so much.
wow.
I learned so much being on chemo. You take things for granted, or you hear, oh, she's got cancer, or he has cancer. But when you go through it, it's something.
Mm. So you mentioned how important, and I totally agree with you, having that support system. And now, we're in the middle of the pandemic, and think about so many people who are, whether it's COVID or just any illness that they're having to endure, they're in the hospitals alone. Their
Absolutely.
support, their
Yeah.
support can't be with them. And I know, because you're a woman of faith, was there any scripture, any song, anything that helped you to stay encouraged during that time?
One of the things, oh my God, is the Philippians, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I say that all the time through various points in my life. And when you mention that about COVID, what's so sad is, do you know, though we probably lost a lot of women and men to breast cancer and other ailments because doctors, remember, doctors' offices are shut down. People weren't getting mammograms, people or other types of screening because you just couldn't. Other things became more important in the medical system. So unfortunately, and I was reading, we did lose some, and some people still are not, like, it was kind of on the back burner because of other things taking place. So I do feel for those families that have lost someone just because it went undiagnosed, or it went undiagnosed, before it was too late. But getting back to your question, I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. And other people, they may have their own scriptures that get them through, or family members. But if you have no one, I, I think faith will get you through that scripture or affirmations. A lot of people do affirmations. A lot of people do affirmations. And so I think if you could just keep a positive, man, that helped me a lot. Just keeping a positive. Even when I had to go every day to radiation, every day for 6 weeks, Monday through Friday, so I could get those treatments. It took me longer to drive to do my radiation than it actually did for me to get the treatment. But you just do it. You just do it. I followed my doctor's protocols.
And I think it's so key that individuals recognize, like you said, you follow your doctor's protocols, but most people don't see themselves as part of the medical team, right? It's not, you're on the outside, you are part of it. And that conversation, that understanding, that trust is so important, I think, to give you the calm as you go through some of the most difficult physical and mental and emotional journeys that a diagnosis such as this can take you through, right?
Right. And when you mention that trust, now, if you don't trust your physician, and I'll tell you, remember I told you earlier on, I got a second opinion. Like, I knew the breast surgeon. And so I got a second opinion. If you're in a situation where you don't feel right, like you mentioned, knowing your body or knowing how you feel, if you're in a situation where you don't feel comfortable talking to your physician, or something just doesn't feel right or off, get another opinion. Get another opinion. I used to take people with me to the doctors or some of my doctor's appointments, and they would write down questions that I never even thought of. And so that's good, because sometimes you're in that frame of mind. You're not maybe sometimes not fully thinking things through. So it's good to take a person with you so that they can, and ask question. I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. I never thought of that question. So two things. Yep. If you don't feel comfortable, second opinion, or take someone with you. Take someone with you to your appointments.
Right. And again, having that advocacy, obviously you're self-advocating, but sometimes, like you said, that third eye, that second set of ears may pick up something for you that you might have missed or didn't even consider. And I know, for me, I was diagnosed with lymphoma, so it's a form
Mm.
of blood cancer. And this is such an interesting story. Again, knowing your body. All I had was a little light. I woke up that morning, and I had a light patch on my arm that wasn't there the night before, and I thought, well, that's odd. Well, I happened to have scheduled a my just regular exam. I went in and I talked to my physician, and she looked at it. She goes, "Oh, Luana, it's about you're about to approach menopause. Your body's just doing changes. It's nothing. It's eczema. Take this cream, and you're going to be okay." And I thought, well, I don't know about eczema just popping up like that, but okay, if that's what you say. Well, 2 days later, I thought, I don't think this is what this is. So I went back to her. She accused me of being a hypochondriac. And I said, and she goes, "You just need to go home. You're blowing things up. You're fine." And she goes, "And please do not go to Google Medical School." Well, that was the last time I ever went to her office. I went and looked up a dermatologist. I went to her. She took one look. She said, "That is not eczema. It's either autoimmune disorder, lupus, or lymphoma." And I said, "Can we just call this eczema and give me some cream and I'll be good?" And it turned out to be, she did a biopsy. I went back and I was thinking I was just going to get my sutures out and it be done with. And they're like, "No, the doctor needs to see you." When I walked in, it was the doctor, the nurse, and a radiologist. And I thought, you got to be kidding. And just like with you, I didn't bring anyone with me because I thought it's nothing. So, ladies, men, whoever is listening, we beg you, listen to your body. It talks to you, and take advantage of the technology that we have now, the medical technology to help us to see inside our body before our body even alerts us, right?
Exactly, exactly. And just like you said, we're advocates. And if you don't have anybody, sometimes you can even write down questions, even if it's before your appointment, and then maybe you're in between appointments. Just kind of keep track of, questions that you might have. Because I did that too. I'd have like a little notebook, and there might be some questions that I wanted to ask. Because you are absolutely right. We got to be our own advocate.
What do you want to say to our African American brothers and sisters who, again, we have this phobia, we have this misconception, because of history and in our role in being part of the experiments,
I,
that kind of blocks us sometimes. What would you say to them? Because we only have one life, and we've got to take control of it, but not be foolish in being resistant.
I just feel like I want to do whatever it is that I can do to prolong my life. And you're right. A lot of times things were wrong. We have been wrong. We've been wrong. And we are still being wrong as African American people. You hear about other people are being missed, and it's on the news every day. But I hear there's lots of us brother and sisters that are missing, and we don't even know they're missing. But besides that, though, as far as health, and we're talking about this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we got to lay aside the things that we've been wronged in the past, or these experiments that were done on us. Because I still will go back to, if you don't feel comfortable with your physician, change, just like you did when she told you you're a hypochondriac, or what did you do? You changed physicians and then got a diagnosis. What would have happened if you just kept that cream, or you just kept that? You know what? You may not be here with us today. Had I not, they were going to do a lumpectomy. Here to find out, if they had done the lumpectomy, um, she removed my lymph nodes. That's where the cancer would have gone. And when they diagnosed triple negative, what if I didn't get that second opinion? So I think what we definitely have to do, put aside the myths or whatever, and do the things that you feel are right for your body and that will keep you alive. I even I have friends who now, can you talk to my aunt, or can you talk to my sister? She was just recently diagnosed with breast cancer, or they have a faith where they don't believe in certain things. She said, please talk to my niece, because I let her niece talk. I just let her talk. because I don't think they typically do any type of treatments or medical
Okay.
treatments. But I just let her talk. And then this is just what I said to her. I said, I cannot tell you what to do, but all I can tell you is what I did. And what I chose was surgery, reconstruction surgery, chemo, and radiation. And and I didn't put past any judgment. I said you have to do yours, but my friend called me and said, you know what? She ended up doing. She ended up getting treatments.
Oh,
So, but I say to everyone, do what you can to prolong life. Life is good.
yes, yes. I'm going to give you a about 30 seconds. I'm going to take myself down and I want you to just talk to our brothers and sisters out there um, and whatever is on your heart to share with them.
I am so honored that what I was able to be on this platform during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And it's just been an honor for me to do this. And I just share with you that I like life. I look at it so much differently as being a breast cancer survivor, that I live each day, not as if my last, because I don't want it to be my last, but almost as if it's my last. So I make the most out of my days, each and every day, treating people the way I want to be treated. And I want that for you. Like, live each day like it could be your last. It's not going to be your last, but treat each day and make the most of every day.
I love that. I love that, Delphine. This has been so great. For those of you that want to know more about Delphine, we are going to have her back because I want to dig deep into this amazing book of hers, Woman to Woman, Life's Lessons Learned on the Journey to Marriage, Motherhood, Entrepreneurship, Divorce, Surviving Breast Cancer, and Finding Love.
Finding new love.
Yes, this woman is showing you that life can happen. We never know which way it's going to turn, but through God's grace, through her faith, she is a survivor and is embracing and loving every amazing moment that she has. And as she said, she wishes that for each and every one of you. And those of you that may be going through breast cancer, if you've been recently diagnosed, or if you're afraid to go because you don't know what it will be, just know that you are not alone. There's resources out there, Komen.org, other local resources. If you feel that you don't have the support system, again, reach out. There's communities of women and men out there to help gird you up through this journey, and so that you can live your best, magical, wonderful life. Yes, Delphine?
Thank you. I said that, but it's been a pleasure being here.
Thank you. And thank you again to our listening audience. This has been another edition of Choose to Challenge. And just remember, you are in control of your life. It is your life. You choose the destiny that you want to live, moment by moment, sometimes breath by breath. Don't lose hope. And just remember, you matter. Blessings. Until next time. Bye, everyone.